I'm honored to moderate this panel discussion about building a unified digital payment ecosystem for the East African community at EACON 2025. And as a co-founder and with Rene of CIMAD University and the University of Beirut Partnership, which began while I served as the director of CIMAD's Center for Research and Development, and paved the way for EACON's creation. I'm grateful for his kind mention in the opening speech. I'm proud to see our vision for regional integration flourish in Mogadishu. Today, we will explore how digital finance can drive EAC trade and inclusion, leveraging Somali's innovation. And I would request the media team, to go to the next slides for me to brief about the panel objectives. So we have three main objectives for this panel. The first objective is to translate the EAC's vision for economic integration into actionable strategies for digital payments. The second objective is to foster dialogue among policymakers, central banks, financial institutions, and private sector innovators. And the third objective is to propose practical recommendations for secure, interoperable, and inclusive digital payment ecosystem. Next, please. And I would like to mention that unified digital payment ecosystem is very important to the fact that digital finance services drive cross-border trade, financial inclusion, and regional growth. And the Somali's EAC integration highlights opportunities to harmonize payment systems. And finally, the East African payment systems as a foundation for regional interoperability. We will be focusing on four core themes for our discussion. We will talk about the interoperability, the regulatory harmonization, the digital infrastructure, and also the partnerships. And there is huge opportunities in the unified ecosystem, as there will be seamless cross-border transaction, boost trade. There will be financial inclusion and also innovation. The challenges that we would like to address in this session include the interoperability, where we will focus on technical and commercial barriers to integrate platforms, the cybersecurity, as you know, that rising fraud risk is, also customer protection, and finally the regulatory gaps. And Somalia plays a very important role as Somalia's mobile money leadership. And the lessons for EAC is that rapid adoption for Somalia's disbursing infrastructure challenge, and Somalia as a hub for FinTech innovation and regulatory testing. So I thank you for listening to your briefing, and then now we can move to the questions. Okay, so we start with the first theme, which is the interoperability, and the first question goes to Prof. Dr. Mohamed Jumale. Dr. Jumale, with your expertise in the IT industry and also academia leadership and expertise in cybersecurity, how can Somalia mobile money systems be integrated with regional payment platforms to achieve seamless interoperability across the EAC?
Thank you, Dr. Ali, and thank you to panel members and all the other listeners. First of all, interoperability of different entities in different countries. And first of all, the technical part, I think the technical part is easier because companies in different countries in East Africa and elsewhere are already working together and are already interoperable, whether it is the telecommunications or mobile money services. And already people are working there, and I have colleagues from countries in East Africa, different countries in East Africa, who work here. They don't have any problem sending money to their families anywhere in those countries. So the companies, in terms of technicality, are already working, and they are already interoperable as far as I know. And people from Kenya or Uganda or other countries can send money. We receive money and we send the money through mobile money systems in other countries. The other part of interoperability is in terms of the policy and the regulations. The countries need to unify their regulations and their monetary regulations and standards, so that the countries can integrate better for better economic integration. And so I think that the challenging part is the policy and the standards. The countries, there are some challenges there in terms of policies. They have different policies. They have different regulatory systems. And I think it is when those policies are unified and combined, I think it is easier. The technical part will be easier. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Jamale. I would like to add that Somalia has reached to level to integrate its payment systems already. We do have our Somali instant payment systems, where all majority of mobile banks and also the telecom sector get connected, so you can send money from, for example, Bank A to Bank B. So the second question is to Mr. Igal. Mr. Igal, building on Dr. Jamal's technical insight, what commercial barriers, such as transaction fees or cross-platform compatibility, must banks address to support interoperable cross-border payments?
Thank you very much. Thank you all for having us in this panel. I think so. Echoing on what Dr. Jamal has just highlighted on the interoperability, on the higher level aspects of the payment processing, it's already in place. What we currently have is through the integrated systems of the international schemes and within the local RTGS. But what we are expecting this to be in an actionable way is to have a direct integration between the East African payment systems and the country's local payment system. As you are aware, the country's local payment is already fragmented. I think the local switch is somehow already in action, even though it's not in a real time. But the use cases that we can now project is a payment from an investor, for example, within the Somali payment systems, directly through a local conversion, local currency conversion, and a vice versa. As of now, from a Dabshil perspective, we are directly now integrated with quite a number of regional mobile wallets, like M-Pesa in Kenya, like the MTN in Uganda, quite a number of other direct integration. But that is only B2B, between businesses. Our target, and from the perspective of Dabshil, is, and with the help of the local infrastructure, is that to be seamlessly integrated in consideration with the PB partnership between the countries, a policy level agreement where the currencies, because we're having different currencies, would be a challenge. So an integrated policy will also be helpful in that sense. Practically now, and technically, and agreeing with Dr. Jamale, is that it's very much doable and it's already in action. From the actual perspective, we already sending money directly to investors from accounts and from wallets, and vice versa. But the target is that any wallet from within the countries of East Africa to be able to purchase services and goods from any shop within the country, and shouldn't be worried about carrying cash or transferring or wiring through the international money schemes, which is quite expensive. So what I could suggest is that first, the integration between the local switches and the local banks, that would be the first step, and then taking up to the next step to the switch level, and to have an integrated switch between the members of the EAC community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Igal. I do agree with that. And now we move to the next theme, which is regulatory harmonization. Mr. Julius Kilios Mutami, as a payment systems expert, what specific regulatory steps can EAC central banks take to harmonize digital transaction policies across member states, addressing gaps that is just mentioned by Dr. Jamale and also Mr. Igal?
Thank you, Mr. Ali, and thank you very much, Somalia, for the warm hospitality that you have accorded to all of us since we came here. I think it has been quite amazing. Perhaps even before I answer the question, I would like to just inform our audience that basically payment systems are the paths through which money works. Money can move physically, or messages can move from one point to another, so as to be able to effect the movement of money. And normally in the payment platform, we normally have two platforms. We normally talk about the wholesale payment system, and the wholesale payment systems is usually provided by the central banks. All central banks in East Africa have already implemented what we call the real-time gross settlement systems, and those systems are normally referred as systemically important payment systems. Because if you joke with those systems or something goes wrong, you can easily cripple an economy within seconds or within minutes. Down there, we normally have the retail payments platform, and within the retail payments platform, that is where all of us now play. Every other small player will play there. Those systems are normally referred to as system-wide payment systems. Reason because when you look at them from the perspective of risks, a message can get interfered with within the retail payments platform, but then that message carries a very small value, and therefore it might not be failed. However, for the large value payment systems, just one message that goes wrong and falls to the hands of the wrong recipient can easily now cause a systemic risk which can cripple the entire financial sector. So I come to the question, what can the central banks do? I would like to say that this year, specifically in May 2025, the East African Monetary Affairs Committee did launch the current payment system development, the EAC Cross-Border Payment Systems Master Plan. It is a 5-year development plan running from the year 2025 to 2028. That master plan has 4 pillars within which the central banks, together with their specific markets, can focus on. There is pillar number 1, which is on legal, regulatory, and oversight frameworks. So the central banks, together with their specific markets, are required to implement the strategic objectives that are contained in that master plan in terms of legal and regulatory framework. There is a pillar on infrastructure. There is a pillar on inclusivity to ensure that everyone is carried with us. And finally, we have a pillar that focuses on capacity building. So what can central banks do? The central banks need to leverage on the strength of that master plan, make sure that it is implemented as per the work plan that they have rolled out. And at the same time, central banks need to take advantage of the support that is being accorded to the EAC by the various development partners, which includes the likes of the World Bank. Currently, the EAC has a project by the World Bank that is on East Africa Regional Digital Integration Project. The project is covering both the EAC and the INGAD, so a number of countries are there. Normally, we are working in a collaboration with the INGAD PIU, and activities are being implemented. GIZ has been there, and a number of other development partners. So broadly, what we need to do, or what Central Bank needs to do, is to ensure the implementation of the master plan as envisaged within its lifespan. I submit.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would also like to pass the mic to Professor Paul Muki Nzoki. Prof. Nzoki, drawing on your research in regional economics, how can lessons from past EAC integrations, such as trade protocols, inform risk management strategies to prevent regulatory fragmentation in digital payment systems?
Thank you, moderator, for the question. As universities, I'm happy that I'm seated with the bankers within the region. I'm quite experienced bankers in the region. The academic point of view, academicians, when we are involved in these matters based on research, we give facts that can inform the decisions that we are supposed to be having. We know very well that the Common Market Protocol calls for us to have free movement of services, again, free movement of capital, and that is a movement that the bankers have talked about, the ones in my panel. And therefore, we have, as you have asked, moderator, integration initiatives that we have had over the years. And these integration initiatives have come with some risks, and risks that we have learned or we are using to learn and to better the next level of integration. Now, the first lesson that we learned from research from universities is that in the implementation of the protocols that we have already signed in East Africa under the Common Market Protocol, we have in the movement of money, the payments that we are talking about, the digital payments, an equal implementation of our policies. Research shows us very well that 70% of all the commitments that we have done within the East African community under the Common Market Protocol are fully implemented. 30% is awaiting implementation, and that is as per the report by the East African Commission Secretariat 2024 report. This also shows us that some partner states are ahead, others are behind. So we need to, as partners in this region, learn from each other, move together, and therefore we want to come up with an implementation strategy that will move the partners that are behind to the partners that are already ahead. The next lesson that we have learned out of research is that In East Africa, we have weak mutual recognition and regulatory systems. I think that has been talked to by my fellow panelists. When it comes to implementing our protocols, the regulatory framework has gaps that need to be closed. And I'm happy that we have government officials at higher levels who can actually push for issues to do with regulatory gap closure. What do I mean? The financial and telecommunication regulators within our regions are operating in standards that have been set by our countries, and those standards seem to be like silos. Each country has its own standards, which are operating better for them. Why can we therefore come up with a legacy-wide mitigation strategy that will guide us on the standards that will be applicable across board without the differences that we have? The third lesson that we are learning from research is that, yes, this morning we talked about AI, and we said without data, AI will be useless. And therefore, from research, we are seeing that we have limited data sharing within the region. Each country is holding, and you're holding on your data, sharing becomes an issue. Cross-border supervision is an issue. And therefore, we have unified payment systems that require linkages. And in addition to that, also, the issue of security of the platforms also comes in. How secure are our systems? In this, therefore, we propose that in trade and facilitation, customs and data interconnectivity needs to be done, and we need to have secure systems. Just to mention, Mr. Moderator, the areas of risk that we need to work on, this is out of research. Number one, we have talked about regulatory fragmentation. Number two, the issue of cybersecurity, data protection, which is very key because movement of money requires our data. The issue of customer protection also comes in, and trust deficit within our region. Lastly, we need to build institutional capacity to close the gaps that we are seeing out of this.
Thank you so much. I think now we can move to the digital infrastructure and trust, where you touch about it now. Prof. Jumale, given your experience and also PhD in cybersecurity and banking industry, what infrastructure investments critical to build trust in cross-border trade and remittance, which support our EAC household income, especially I mean the 25% raise in financial cyber incident.
The experts and the witness already said the systems are already working, but in isolation. And in terms of the cybersecurity and the cyber security problems or breaches that could happen, I think it is important to have a common cybersecurity framework for the region. And to follow the same standards, and after the integration, because every company in every country has its cybersecurity measures in place, and the infrastructure is already in place. I don't think that we need a new cybersecurity infrastructure for that integration. I believe if we have a common cybersecurity framework and procedures, we can follow the same procedures to protect our data and security infrastructure. If we follow the same things there, I think we can do that. So all the problem is now coming to the same ground and having the same cybersecurity framework to protect our data and money. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Igal. Following Dr. Jumale's cybersecurity perspective, how banks like US Shield Bank ensure consumer protection and trust in unified EAC payment ecosystem, particularly for rural users.
Thank you very much. Again, I think that Mala has highlighted on a very high level the data protection tools already in place. And from a perspective of the local banks, or also telecommunications, here as we are also partners with the telecom industry, where the payment providers are also integrated. Customer or data security, customer data protection is already in place. So banks are already in line with that. And at the regional level, the integration and the framework, the cyber security framework is also in place. The additional layer that Paul has also highlighted is the need for a regional integrated policy. And I think that is what the conference is all about and what the integration is all about. From the perspective of the transaction level and the payment perspective, that's already in place. It's taking place in real time. The only missing element is the capacity is already there. The bank is already well capable in this field of payments. It's the government arm where the regulations, and I think that is a work in progress. So in line with the regional EAC policy, I think that would be incorporated and shouldn't be an issue.
We already have the political will. The fact that our heads of states have already signed protocols and the protocols are already in place, then we are in safe hands. As now it's to pick up from what they have done and try to implement, and we move from paper to implementation, as you said yesterday. So as education sector, therefore, we are ready to walk the journey with the financial sector. But one and a few of limitations that we are seeing up to date, we are talking about in higher education student mobility within the region. And student mobility within the region is calling for us to have students move from one country to another. Now, when a student moves from Somalia to Kenya, for example, a university in Kenya will require them to produce, I'm just giving an example, some documents to prove payment has actually been done, the banks, so that now these students can be admitted. How can we therefore seamlessly kind of net the university systems with the banking system so that at real time we can easily confirm and not require the hard copies? Universities, as I said, we generate empirical literature that gives evidence for the decision making. And therefore, rather than having regulations on paper, I know the banking sector is very fast when it comes to reacting to what the customers require. But what about the other sectors of the government, including the universities where we are coming from? Then the last part that I would like to talk to on this is the issue of research and development. In Kenya, the government funds research and development to the level of 0.8%. And this becomes the highest level of funding within the region. So what are we doing as governments to make sure that we fund research that will inform also what government is supposed to do to facilitate these digital payments that we are talking about? Then the establishment of the East African payment protocol, or even a task force to guide us on what to do and harmonize. Then lastly, can we be in a position to publish on regular basis the EAC Digital Risk Index within our states? I've just checked before I came here. I could not even find some data from some of our member states on the risks that we are facing real time on issues to do with payments. But the banking sector has that. From the government side, we are lagging behind. So that's my proposal.
Okay, thank you so much. And now we go to Mr. Miyutami. Miyutami, how can EAC initiatives like ERDIP foster multi-sector alliance to ensure long-term sustainability and financial inclusion across urban and rural EAC communities.
I will first focus on saying that by Somalia, build Somalia, by East Africa, build East Africa. I think from that slogan, we need to recognize that we are spending a lot of resources to come up with systems. For example, in the project that I am with, we are focusing on 3 or 4 development objectives. We are focusing on market connectivity. We are focusing on data market development, which is has 2 mainstreams, data security and cyber security. And we are also focusing on online market development. So what I'm trying to say is that we are spending a lot of resources to come up with systems. For example, we have the East African payment system, which we can use or utilize to send money within East Africa without using correspondent banking. So I won't be encouraging ourselves to take note of that. We need to do a lot of publicity within our market, within East Africa, so that we can market the systems that we have, whether Dash Bill, we focus them, whether EAPS, we try to enlighten people or East Africans on their existence, so that at the end of the day, we can enhance sustainability of those particular systems. And finally, I would encourage us as much as possible. We do a lot of collaboration, because without moving with the various stakeholders in this particular payment system segment, then we may not go far.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Militami. I think we have reached to the round robin prompt to all panelists. We start maybe from Prof. Jamale and then followed by the other team members. In one key next step, what should the EAC prioritize, whether a pilot project, for example, policy framework, or a task force to build a unified digital payment ecosystem by 2030? I request each panelist to cover this maximum 1 minute each. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. What I have to say is that the payment system is already reshaping in East Africa, not only East Africa, but also the world. And the systems are already working. The governments should focus on policy and regulations and standards as the next level for a better and useful integration. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. 2 things or 3 for call for action. Number 1, universities in East Africa, we are moving to competency-based education. And therefore, we're calling for serious linkage in training with universities, with also the industry. So the banking and financial sector team, we need to collaborate with you as universities in that. Secondly, the issue of communication. We know very well that in some areas within East Africa, we don't have network, and we are talking of financial inclusion. So how can we move to make sure that the infrastructural development is done to support that? And lastly, we need to come up with an EAC digital payment harmonization task force, if possible, that will now assist the East African community to harmonize the payment systems. Thank you.
Well, from the banks and the telcos, I think we are quite ahead when it comes to this, from policy levels and from also educational and institutions. In this regard, the banks are already doing this in a real time and processing payments between members of the EAC community. But here the target is to enable direct people to people or merchants to merchants, then direct payments instances between the, in example, a visitor from Tanzania would be able to use his own wallet in the coasts of Somalia or anywhere where he doesn't require any other payment method other than his own wallet. So here the acceptance is in place. The only missing element that the government would be working on will be the regulation part, the currency conversion, and maybe the research on from the university's perspective. So in totality, banks are already in operation, but we will still need to have a data-driven, research-driven initiatives to enable those payments to the rural areas or to enlarge the ecosystem. So I think the gap is quite close here, and maybe in upfronts we could do in collaboration with the regional authority to have an integrated system between the banks or within the countries, and then an integrated system within the region.
Thank you.
I think my recommendation would be, as a region, we should fast track the implementation of the national instant payment systems, or rather what we call faster payment systems. Other terminologies that are used are national switches, so that each of the EAC partner states has its own national switch, and this will be able to clear us to link the entire EAC retail payment system with one linkage. We can either use the IPS typology or we can use another, as long as we have been able to implement those national switches or national faster payment arrangements.
Thank you so much. I think now we would like to open the question to the floor. Just two questions, one man and one woman. We start with the women's, if there's anybody to ask. Ladies first. Okay, so we switch to that gentleman.
Delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The question remains, what has held the region back from achieving the same level of digital transformation and adoption seen in parts of Europe and Asia, where blockchain and digital payments have revolutionized economics? So, and the building of digital payments and ecosystem of East African community, at the EACON, there is a clear vision to ensure that the East African region benefits from digital money, especially blockchain-based currencies like Bitcoin, which are becoming increasingly viral for digital growth and financial conclusion. Now is the time for East African community to embrace innovation, strong digital infrastructure, and unlock the opportunities that come with a blockchain-powered future. Our banks have also played
Sorry to cut you short. I would request to just directly go to the question, if you don't mind.
Okay, thank you. Our banks have also played an important role in making things easier for young people. The efforts of Premier Bank and Salam Bank for their strong support and contribution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Now that's the end, and now we have reached to the conclusion part of it. So let me summarize the recommendations of this panel. With regards to the interoperability theme, the experts have recommended that the technical part is easier, And we do have local RTGS available in Somalia. There is B2B transaction in place. And countries need to unify regulations and policies. Unified currencies are needed, and money, where money can move from one bank to another in the region. With regards to the regulations team, the central banks, together with their markets, will launch EAC cross-border payment systems on May next year. And we have to take advantage of the support provided by the development partners, including GIC, World Bank, Extra. And there is free movements of capital, and risks include 70% commitments fully implemented. We need to learn from each other, and there must be EAC integration strategy to prevent preemptive policies. With regards to the cybersecurity, there must be a common cybersecurity framework, as the system is already working and the data protection is already in place. With regards to the partnership for scale and sustainability, integration of payment systems with universities is recommended, and research, as well as research and development funding to inform digital payment channels and solutions. And there is also a need to focus on data, as it is very important, and students' mobility as well. And all the experts recommended that governments should focus on policy regulations and standards, and the EAC university should have a competence-based education, while EAC banks also should collaborate with universities. Current convention is necessary. And finally, we should fast-track national instant payment systems so that each EAC partner state has its own national switch. I thank you very much, and that's the end of this session. Thank you.